Libertadores del Sur 1810 to 1824 is a two-player card-driven strategic wargame that recreates the campaigns during the South American Wars of Independence between royalists, loyal to Spain, and Latin American patriots. This game specifically focuses on the campaigns fought in present-day Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. Let's take a look at the game components, bearing in mind that these are playtest quality components. The playing area of the map is divided into 11 provinces, and locations within each province are depicted by colored squares. Capitals are important for determining the province's loyalty and where new units will appear. Green locations are grasslands, while those in orange are highlands, and locations in blue are ports. In addition, there are two naval areas in the game, the Oceano Pacífico and the Rio de la Plata areas. Movement between locations is performed via connecting lines. Solid black lines are land connections, which represent easily traversable land routes. Rough connections are shown in red dotted lines. Crossing these will result in attrition for the moving forces, and retreating through them is prohibited. Naval connections are dashed blue lines between ports, which are easily traversable only if a side has played the proper naval transport operation card. There is a card for river transports and another card for sea transports within a particular naval area. The game round track indicates the current year, and each round represents the passage of 1 year of real time. Each side has a morale and loyalty track. And there's a battlefield box display where battles are resolved, which may include flanking attacks. The game includes a deck of 13 identical operation cards for each side, and each side has a unique deck of year event cards, which may be played for its event only on the year stated on the card. Counters represent combat units, leaders, and supply markers. The Royalist player controls all colonial government units, which are shown in light red, and reinforcements from Spain, which are shown in dark red. The Patriot player controls units that are recruited or levied from provinces under his control. In addition to these two sides, there are federal forces, which are created by yearly events and are hostile to both players. The various combat unit types represented in the game are regular infantry, light infantry, cavalry, artillery, and militia. Unit counters have a number showing the unit's strength, and the backsides of all units show the units in disordered condition. Artillery units are the exception. They are never disorganized. Their front side shows a strength of 4, and their backside a reduced strength of 2. Markers are used to keep track of morale for each side. There are also markers to denote loyalty of the provinces, and loyalty is key to determining victory in this game. If any side secures 9 of the 11 provinces to their side at the end of a round, the game ends and that side wins an automatic victory. Otherwise, the side that controls the most provinces at the end of the game wins, and in the event that both sides control the same number of provinces, the Patriot player wins. However, any provinces in control of federal forces at the end of the game are considered controlled by the Royalists. Now let's move some counters around and take a look at some examples of play. The game starts with a special 1809 round, and you'll see this procedure is designed for the purpose of creating variability of play each time. There will be certain randomness that will determine the initial forces that are placed on the map. This particular round begins by the Patriot player selecting 2 of 3 year event cards that are applicable to 1809, the Viceroy Deposed card, Rise of the Juntas, and Patria Vieja. Let's take a closer look at them. Each of these cards converts 2 provinces to federal control and places randomly 2 units in that province's capital together with 1 leader. Viceroy deposed converts to federal control the provinces of Misiones and Paraguay. Rise of the Juntas converts Upper Peru and Charcas, and Patria Vieja converts Chile and Araucanía. As you will see in the 1809 special round, there will be a substantial number of royal units that start in this location here, Cusco. Cusco cannot be occupied or controlled by the Patriot player. It is simply a starting point for royal units. So one of the cards that will be played now is Rise of the Juntas, which turns the loyalty to federal in Upper Peru and Charcas and places 2 random units there in the capital together with 1 leader. So we place federal loyalty control markers now in Alto Peru and Charcas. Now we would randomly select 2 units from the unit pool for Alto Peru and Charcas, but both provinces only have 2 units, so we place the 2 Alto Peru units together with the leader for the federal forces, Arenales, in the capital of Alto Peru, which is La Paz. And we also placed the 2 regular infantry units from Charcas and the leader for Charcas, which is Monteagudo, in Charcas' capital, which is Chuquisaca. The second year event card that will be played will be this one, Patria Vieja, which turns the loyalty of Araucanía and Chile to federal and places 2 random units and a leader in each one of their capitals. Araucanía has 4 units, so we have to randomly select 2. So we place these 4 units in the cup and we select 2. And the randomly selected units are 1 artillery and 1 regular infantry unit. And we place those 2 units, and Rojas, the federal leader for Araucanía, in that province's capital, which is Concepción. And we do the same process for the Chilean units. The 4 units are placed in the cup, and we randomly select 2 units from the cup, and we selected 2 regular infantry units. Those 2 units go together with the federal leader, Carrera, in Chile's capital, which is Santiago. So as the result of playing these 2 yearly event cards during this 1809 special round, the federal forces control 4 provinces: Araucanía, Chile, Charcas, and Alto Peru. And remember that these federal forces are not friendly to any of the sides in the game. And the cards that were played for their text are removed from the game. The remaining year event card, Viceroy Deposed, is now placed together with the other event cards for the Patriot player, and it is eligible to be used in the first turn of the game, which is the 1810 round. The next step is to place 4 randomly selected units from the province of Litoral in Buenos Aires. There's a total of 8 units in Litoral's force pool, so we randomly select 4. And the units selected are 2 cavalry and 2 regular infantry units. These are placed in Buenos Aires, and that's the only province that starts the game under Patriot control. The Patriot leader Saavedra, which is in the 1809 box, is now placed in Buenos Aires. Now we have to select 4 random units from the royal unit pool, and these will be placed in the Cusco space. So we place all royal units in the cup, and now we select 4 units randomly. And the units selected are 1 light infantry, 2 cavalry, and 1 artillery unit. These are placed in the Cusco space. Now we add one randomly selected royal unit to the capital of each province that is still under royal control. Let's take a look at the randomly selected units. The royalists have a cavalry unit at San Juan, the capital of the province of Cuyo, and also at Córdoba, which is the capital of the province that bears the same name. In addition, the royalists have a light infantry unit at Yapeyú, which is the capital of Misiones, and further north, a cavalry unit in Asunción, Paraguay. And finally, an artillery unit was placed in Montevideo, the capital of Banda Oriental. Now we have to add one randomly selected unit to the Spain box, which houses Spanish reinforcements. So we take these Spanish units, place them inside the cup, and randomly select a unit. And it is a cavalry unit. Now the royalist player can place the leader Goyeneche, which is in the 1809 box, with any royal forces on the map, placed with the royal forces that start in Cusco. That concludes the 1809 special round. Now we flip the marker to its operations side and we place it in the 1810 box. And now we begin with the first round of the game, which is the 1810 round. So each yearly round is divided into the operations phase and the year-end phase. And the operation phase starts with the year event segment, where each player plays a year event card. The only year event card that the Patriots have that is eligible for play in 1810 is this card, Viceroy Deposed. And this card turns the loyalty of two provinces, namely Misiones and Paraguay, to federal. And as we've stated before, federal provinces are enemies to both players, but at the end of the game, any provinces that are controlled by federal forces are considered as if they were royal provinces. So the Patriot player doesn't have an interest in spawning so many of these federal provinces. So this card, instead of being played for its text, will be played for its operational value of 1. And the Patriots start by bringing any leaders that they have eligible for this turn. Belgrano, with a leadership value of 3. He will enter the game here in Buenos Aires, the capital of Litoral. Let's take a look at the Patriot forces in Buenos Aires. See if the Patriots have 2 leaders and 4 combat units. In this game, during the maneuver segment, leaders are activated, and leaders can move a number of combat units equal to their leadership value plus 1. So Belgrano by himself could move up to 4 combat units. But leaders can also move other leaders that have a lesser leadership value. So Belgrano could also move Saavedra, and Saavedra in turn could move 2 more combat units. So in theory, Belgrano with Saavedra would be able to move 6 combat units, but there's only 4 in Buenos Aires at this time. So Belgrano will be activated, and he will leave Saavedra and 1 infantry unit in Buenos Aires. And with the 1 ops card, he can move 1 space along a black regular connection line. So he moves his 2 cavalry and 1 regular infantry unit to Santa Fe. And that concludes the turn for the Patriots. Now the Royalists have to choose 1 year event card. They have 3 eligible ones: excommunication, confiscation of property, and naval expedition. And they will play excommunication for its text. So this card causes that during this year, federal provinces do not receive replacements or reinforcements. And so that we don't forget this when the relevant segment comes about, we will leave the card on the map as a reminder. Next, we move to the maneuvers segment, and the Patriots also start with their turn in the maneuvers segment. So let's take a look at the Patriot cards. They have a hand of 3 cards, and during this maneuver segment, the phasing player can play a card either for its operational value or for its event, but they don't have any event cards. They have battle cards and reaction cards. Battle cards are played during battles, reaction cards during the opponent's turn. So the Patriots will just play 1 card for its operational value. And the Patriots will play this card, hastily withdrawal, for its operational value of 2, so we now discard this operation card. And the Patriots could activate Belgrano or Saavedra, and whoever's activated will have 2 command points to spend. In this case, Belgrano will be activated. So Belgrano is activated. Let's take a look at his options. He has 2 command points. He can spend the first one to move here into Córdoba, and he would have to stop and conduct a battle. His second option is to move into Santa Lucia, but he could advance no further because he's not playing the river transport card that allows him to move up to 3 spaces along these blue dashed lines. So that means his turn would end in Santa Lucia. The other option he has is moving along this black connecting line back to Buenos Aires, and then 1 more space here to Salta along this river line, in which case he would have to stop there. And that's what he will do. He will leave 1 unit in Santa Fe. That will be one of his 2 cavalry units. Spends 1 operation point to reach Buenos Aires. He has 1 left. And if he wanted, he can pick up Saavedra and his cavalry unit at Buenos Aires, but he will leave them there. And he expends his 2nd operation point to move into Salto. And notice that Salto is a green space. It is a grassland space. He has to stop there because he doesn't have the river transport card. Because the Patriots played a card for its operational value during this segment or for an event, in this case it was operational value, their morale drops by 1 to 8. And the Patriots' turn finishes by refilling his hand to 3. So we pick the top card from the operation deck, and it's another battle card, Ambush. So now it's the Royalists' turn, and they can play a card for its operational value or for the event in the case of siege mortars and insurgency. But notice that the text in those cards doesn't make it reasonable to play these cards at this time because there's no sieges and there are no provinces with a guerrilla marker. So the Royalist player will play this card, Siege Mortars, for its operational value of 2. And the Royalists will activate Goyeneche at Cusco. He is a leader with a leadership value of 4. In Cusco, the Royals have 2 cavalry, 1 light infantry, and 1 artillery unit. And because Goyeneche has leadership value of 4, he could move up to 5 units. There's 4 in Cusco. And remember, Cusco is a starting space for the Royalist. Patriots cannot enter that space. So he will move all of the units along the black connection line to Puno in Alto Peru. This move uses 2 operation points, 1 for traversing the black communication line and a second one because the force is entering a highland space denoted by the orange coloring. So that force has expended its 2 operational points and ends its turn there at Puno. Now this penalty of an extra operation point to enter a highland only applies once per activation. And now we reduced Royalist morale by 1 to 8. The Royalists now filled their hand of operation cards and they received the river transport card. The Royalists begin their turn by bringing the new leader for this round, which is Linares, with a leadership value of 3, and he will enter play in Montevideo. Let's take a look at a detailed combat example so you can see how the different unit types function in this game. Let's say that it is the Patriots' turn during the maneuver segment and they play this card, Siege Mortars, for its operational value of 2. And the Patriots activate Belgrano, who is currently here in Yapeyú, that is in Misiones. Belgrano has 4 combat units with him, which is the limit of the units that he can actually move, equal to his leadership +1. And he has 2 operation points. The first operation point is used to move his force to Santa Maria, and the second one to move into Banda Oriental, specifically into Angostura, where there's Tristan with 3 combat units and a supply train, and we have a battle to resolve now. All field battles are resolved in this display that is printed on the map, and we start by placing the Patriot forces in this rectangle and the Royalist forces in this red rectangle. And we see that the Patriots have 4 units and 1 leader with a leadership value of 3. The Royalist forces have 3 combat units and a leader with a leadership value of 2 and also a supply train. These spaces on the sides are spaces where units that will attempt a flanking attack on the enemy are placed, and we will see how those flanking attacks work. Here we have a summary of the field battle sequence. The first step is reaction and battle effects. In this step, both players can play 1 card, which they place face down. Attacker does this first. So let's say that the Patriots will play 1 card, and the card can be a reaction card or a battle effects card. Then the defender announces if he will play a card, and let's say here that the Royalists also decide to play a card. And now both cards are revealed simultaneously. The Patriots played a battle effects card, Hidden Guns, and the Royalists a reaction card, Armed Servants. We resolve reaction cards first. The card reads that when defending a friendly location from enemy attack, add a militia unit to your forces before the battle starts. So now the Royalists add this 2-strength militia unit to their forces. Now they have 4 units in a supply train. The Patriot card is a battle effects card. It states that you run your bombardment phase the first round of combat twice and increase the artillery combat factor by +1 during that first round. But before the bombardment phase, we go to the flanking force phase. In this phase, each side, starting with the attacker, has to decide if he will choose to use a flanking force. So the Patriots decide that they will attempt to flank the Royalists. And to do so, they must use a named leader, in this case Belgrano, and they choose a cavalry unit as the flanking force. And these 2 counters are placed here in this rectangle, which means that they will attempt to conduct a flank attack on the Royalist, and this is not automatic. Next, the defenders, the Royalists, decide whether they will attempt a flank attack on the Patriots, and they decide to do so. The Royalists placed their named leader, Tristan, and a light infantry unit in the flanking box. The effect of placing units in these flanking boxes is that they will not participate in this first round of combat. During the second round of combat, we will determine if these flanking forces arrived and will be able to attack the enemy or not. Now we go to the bombardment phase. In the bombardment phase is where artillery units can fire, and only the Patriots have artillery in this battle. Artillery can fire once during the bombardment phase, but because of the battle effects card that the Patriot player played, he can run this phase twice and in addition increase his artillery combat factor by 1 during this first round. What this means is that the artillery unit, instead of firing with a strength of 4, will fire with a strength of 5. And that means that it will roll 1d6, and if it obtains 5 or less, it inflicts a hit on the enemy. But because of the battle effects card, it also fires twice. So we roll 2d6, and 5s or less will inflict 1 hit on the Royal forces. The Patriots roll a 1 and a 5, 2 hits. And during bombardment, the owner of the artillery unit designates which defending units suffer a hit, and each enemy unit must be assigned a hit before it can suffer a second hit. So the Patriots designate the regular infantry and the cavalry units to each suffer 1 hit. And these are flipped to their disorganized or reduced sides. Next, we resolve close combat. In close combat, each combat unit except artillery will roll 1 die, and if the result is equal or less than its combat factor, it inflicts a hit on the enemy, and the owning player decides which units suffer the hits, and he may distribute these as he likes. So the Patriots will roll 1 die for the infantry and 1 for the cavalry, and they need 4 or less to hit, while the Royalist will roll 3 dice, 1 for the reduced infantry, needing 3 or less to hit, and 1 for the reduced cavalry, and 1 for the militia, and each needing 2 or less to hit. So we roll 1 die for each of the combat units on both sides. We see that the Patriots rolled a 1 for their infantry, and that scores 1 hit, and a 6 with the cavalry, which is a miss. Meanwhile, on the Royalist side, it was bad luck all around. The results were higher than each of the units' combat rating, so no hits are scored. So now the Royal player has to inflict 1 hit, and he will have the militia absorb that hit, and the militia only has 1 hit that it can absorb, and it is eliminated. And as you can see, militia units only have 1 side. They don't have a disordered side. Their backside is used for militia units of the opposing side. So this militia unit is eliminated from play. Next, we check to see if the leader in command can rally any units. In this phase, the leader that is in command can rally 1 unit that was disordered in the previous close combat phase. The militia unit cannot be rallied because it doesn't have a disordered side. So on the Patriot side, no units were disordered, so there's no units to rally. Now we go to retreat, and the attacker first determines if he will retreat. And if there's a retreat from battle, then we go on to the following phase, which is pursuit. The attacker, the Patriot player, decides he will not retreat, and then the Royalist player also decides that he will not retreat. So this means that now we move to phase B, flanking force determination. And now, starting with the attacker, we determine if the flanking force arrives or not. And we see that the attacker has Belgrano with one cavalry unit attempting to outflank the Royalists. So we roll 1d6, and for the flanking attack to be successful, for Belgrano to arrive, he has to roll 3 or less. And Belgrano rolls a 6, so he doesn't arrive to the battle yet. And now we roll for the Royalists. Tristan has to roll 2 or less, but he is accompanied by a light infantry unit. And light infantry units have the ability to reduce the flanking force determination die roll by 1. So we roll 1d6 with a -1 for the Royalists. The roll is a 3 modified to a 2, so the Royalist forces arrive, and Tristan will be able to participate in the upcoming close combat phase with an enhanced effect. But before we arrive to close combat, we resolve bombardment. And note that the battle effect of the Patriot operation card only applied to that first round of combat. It doesn't apply now. Now the Patriot player fires his artillery unit, and he can select the target, which can be a unit which is in this rectangle or any flanking force that has arrived. However, another characteristic of light infantry unit is that it cannot be targeted by artillery for bombardment. So the artillery will fire at the reduced infantry unit, and we roll 1d6. The roll is a 5, which is higher than its combat rating, so the artillery misses. And now we move on to close combat. Now we roll 1d6 for each of the non-artillery units that are engaged in battle, and the light infantry unit that arrived for the Royalist, which is flanking the Patriots, if it scores a hit, it scores double, that is 2 hits. So we roll 1d6 for each of these units. So we see here that the Patriot cavalry scored 1 hit, the infantry missed, and on the Royalist side, the reduced infantry scored 1 hit, the cavalry missed, but the light infantry unit scores 2 hits. So total hits are 3 hits inflicted by the Royalists and 1 hit inflicted by the Patriots. So the Patriot player has to absorb 3 hits. The Patriot player can distribute the hits as he sees fit, and he has to absorb 3. So 2 hits eliminate the infantry unit, and the remaining hit reduces the cavalry unit. Now the Royalists have to absorb 1 hit, and they will reduce their light infantry unit. Otherwise, they would have to eliminate one of these 2 units that are already reduced. So we flip the light infantry unit to its reduced side. Next is the rally phase by the leader in command. The leader in command can rally 1 unit that just received a disordered result during this combat round. Note that Belgrano has not arrived to the battle yet, so he has no effect on this rally phase. Tristan, who did arrive, has a leadership value of 2, meaning that during the course of the entire battle, he may rally 2 units, but maximum 1 unit per round. So now he's going to use 1 of his 2 leadership points to rally 1 unit that was disordered in this combat round. And he will bring back the light infantry unit to full strength. Now we go to the retreat phase, and first the attacker has to decide whether he will retreat or not, followed by the defender. And the attacking Patriots decide not to retreat. They hope that in this round, next round, Belgrano will arrive. And the Royalists decide also not to retreat. So now we go back to the flanking force phase. The Royalists are already flanking the Patriots. We have to roll for Belgrano to see if he arrives. And the Patriots need 3 or less, so we roll 1d6. And the roll is a 1, and Belgrano and his cavalry unit arrive. So that means that the cavalry unit will be able to score double hits during the upcoming close combat phase. But now we go to the bombardment phase. And the Patriot artillery targets again the reduced infantry Royalist unit, and we roll 1d6. And again it rolls a 5 and misses. Now we move on to the close combat phase. We roll 1d6 for each of the participating non-artillery units. And we see here that luck did not favor the Royalist in any degree here. All misses. Meanwhile, the Patriots scored a hit with their flanking cavalry unit, so that is double. So 2 hits are inflicted on the Royalist forces, and they must distribute those hits as they see fit. The first hit will eliminate the reduced cavalry unit, and the second hit will flip the light infantry unit to its reduced side. Now to the rally phase, and the leader in command may rally 1 unit that was disordered in this combat round. No Patriot unit was disordered in this combat round, but on the Royalist side, the light infantry unit was disordered, and now Tristan uses his last leadership point to rally that unit. And it is flipped to its full strength side. Now the retreat phase, and the sides have to decide, starting with the attacker, if they will retreat or not. The Patriots, who are the attackers, decide to stay. The Royalists, however, decide that discretion is the better part of valor, and they will retreat. And because there will be a retreat, now we go to the pursuit phase. And only cavalry units can fire during this phase. If the winning force has any cavalry units, they will pursue the retreating enemies, and each cavalry unit rolls a die and applies 1 hit for every roll that is equal or less than its combat factor, and the pursuer also allocates the hits. So the Royalists have 1 cavalry unit, and they will roll 1d6. The roll is a 4, so they score a hit. Now the second cavalry unit, the reduced one with the strength of 3, fires. And it rolls a 5, and that's a miss. So it's just 1 hit inflicted in this pursuit. And they get to allocate the hit, and they will inflict it against the reduced infantry unit, which is now eliminated. And now the surviving Royalist units retreat. Now the pursuer has the option of canceling a hit. So if that would be the case, the Patriots could have canceled the hit on the infantry unit and instead capture the supply train, in which case we flip the marker to the Patriot side. And we will talk more about supply train markers further on, but let's suppose for the example's sake that the regular infantry was eliminated in the pursuit. So now the losing side, the Royalists have to retreat. They cannot retreat into Santa Maria because this is the location from which the Patriots moved into the battle space Angostura. They cannot retreat to this space because this is in Brazil. So the only space they can retreat, the only location, is Montevideo. And the last thing we do after conducting the retreat is to reduce the morale of the losing side in a battle. So if it's at 8, it is now reduced to 7, and that will reduce the number of cards that can be played by that side as operations or event during the round. Let's take a quick look at the year-end phase with some examples of play, and you will see how various aspects of the game now relate to this particular phase, especially as to victory, attrition, replacement, and reinforcements. First, we update province loyalty. So in this example, we see that the Patriot forces under Belgrano control Yapeyú, which is the capital of Misiones. And Misiones does not have any other marker, but shows the imperial Spanish flag. So it was controlled by the royal side at the beginning of the round. And now control has changed. So we place a Patriot loyalty marker to denote that Misiones is under Patriot control. Next, we update the loyalty track. Let's say that in addition to Misiones, the Patriots were able to control another capital in another province, and the Royals did not take any Patriot provinces. So the net result was that 2 new provinces are under Patriot control. So we adjust the loyalty marker by 2, and it is now at 4. Next, we checked end victory conditions. If this is the last turn of the game, we count the provinces loyal to each side, and the side that has the most provinces loyal to its cause wins the game, with the caveat that provinces under federal control, for example here, we see that Charcas is under federal control, count as if they were under royal control. Now, if this is not the last turn of the game, we check to see if any side has 9 provinces loyal to its cause. In that event, if that is the case, that side wins an automatic victory. And if there's no automatic victory, or it's not the last turn of the game, we now apply local attrition. In this example, Misiones has just been occupied and controlled now by the Patriot forces, which occupied its capital. So attrition is suffered by units of the opposing side, the side that do not occupy the capital. In this example, there's royal forces in Santa Maria. And what attrition does is that it reduces all full-strength units to their reduced side. So the beginning, the royal side would have to reduce these 3 units, but the number of units reduced is reduced by the leadership rating of the leader present there. So instead of reducing all 3 units, only 1 is reduced, and the Royals decide to reduce the cavalry unit. Now we apply siege isolation effects. We see here that Buenos Aires starts the game under siege, as signified by this red band with the X and the 2 ships to the side. Buenos Aires has a strength of 3. So if that condition continues at this time, we reduce the strength of the fortress from 3 shields, signifying a strength of 3, with this marker now to denote that it has a strength of 2. Now we reset the year and morale markers. So if this is the end of the 1812 round, we would advance the marker to the next box, 1813. And we place the morale markers for each of the sides in the number 9 box of their respective tracks. Next, we add replacements. This is done by flipping over any reduced or disordered units in provinces that they control. So turning our attention to Misiones, the Patriots control that province because they hold the capital. And Belgrano has 4 units with him, 2 of which are cavalry units that are reduced. So those 2 cavalry units are flipped to their full strength sides, and that's how taking replacements is represented in the game. So you can see how important holding a province capital is. You not only receive replacements if you do, but your opponent suffers attrition. And the last step of the year-end phase is to add reinforcements. During this step, each province, even federal ones, raise in their capital a combat unit from its unit pool or a supply unit if there are no combat units available in the unit pool. So let's say that in the Misiones unit pool there's 2 units, so 1 is raised, so we have to determine which one is randomly added. So we place both in the cup and 1 is randomly selected. And it is the regular infantry unit. So we take that unit and place it in the capital Yapeyú, and that unit is currently controlled by the Patriots. In addition, we randomly add a combat unit from Spain to the Spain reinforcement box. So let's say that we have these units in the Spanish force pool. They are placed in the cup and 1 is drawn randomly. As for instance, this infantry unit, it is placed in the Spain box, and that means that during the next turn, those units may be brought as reinforcements if a particular event calling for that is drawn. And that would conclude 1 round of play. And this is where our video will end for now. This is Libertadores del Sur, 1810 to 1824, a game in Legion Wargames lineup of games that will be published. And this is the first volume. This is a card-driven game, and as a card-driven game, it has certain characteristics that are different from our other card-driven games. For instance, these operation cards are the same for both sides, but you get a hand of 3 each round. So that introduces certain randomness to the game because you're never going to have the same combination of 3 cards all the time. Meanwhile, the event deck is unique to each side with events that are distinct. And this gives the game that historical flavor. So I hope that this video has given you a good idea of the flow of the game and what the game has to offer. This is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.